Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Ryan Banks. Hope you're all doing well. Today, we're going to be reading some stuff together today. Some news, some writing by the UNRWA about the treatment of the detainees that Israel has been keeping, the Palestinians that they've been keeping in concentration camps, and how they've been torturing them. It has come out recently that they've been doing a lot of basically they've just been gang raping men and women and sodomizing them with objects and prongs and things like that. So if you're sensitive to that sort of thing, then I suggest you click off the video now, because I'm not going to censor any of it. We're just going to be talking about it and reading, and this is what's really going on. This is what's happening. You know, this is what's happening in the world, and it's absolutely deplorable and horrifying. And no human being should ever have to go through this, and no human being should do this to another person ever. And there is no reason or excuse for it. The IDF are one of the most moral armies in the world, or whatever they like to call themselves. All right, well, with that, let's just go ahead and hop on over here. I have this report that's basically just a kind of comprehensive little thing put together by the UNRWA. It's called Detention and Alleged Ill Treatment of Detainees from Gaza During Israel-Hamas War. And this, the UNRWA, the UN is a liberal bourgeois organization. And so their stance as, this beacon of international law and everything like that is has been called into question as of recent events. Where the United States has basically just been like, nope, ICCJ, the International Criminal Court of Justice, we don't recognize your authority. But of course the United States respected the decision of the ICJ to criminalize Russia and Putin and all those guys with the Ukrainian invasion. So it really just goes to show that the ICJ, and however the United States likes to recognize their authority and when not to, when to deem them as legitimate, is just purely geopolitical. There's nothing else to it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and read this about what's been going on in Israel with how they've been treating their detainees and their rape victims. This report is based on information obtained as a result of UNRWA's role coordinating humanitarian aid at the Karem Shalom crossing point between Gaza and Israel, where the Israeli Defense Forces have been regularly releasing detainees since early November 2023. And from information provided to UNRWA independently and voluntarily by Palestinians released from detention, including men, women, and children and staff members. This report does not provide a comprehensive account of all the issues regarding individuals detained during the Israel-Hamas war, and notably does not cover any issues concerning the hostages taken by Hamas on the 7th of October or other concerns regarding the treatment of any detainees in Gaza by Palestinian armed actors. Now, they have to put that in there because, of course, they have to, they're a liberal bourgeois organization where they have to at least have some sort of appeal to, Western imperialist authority. Because frankly, I support Hamas. They're a resistance organization. They're folded into the larger Palestinian resistance movement against their genocide and against the occupation by Israel. So frankly, I just, mentioning things like, oh no, the hostages that Hamas took, it's like, can you really condemn the people for doing that? If you look at the history of what they had gone through and what they've been through, and how they've tried peaceful options over the past 80 years, and Israel just shoots them. So basically, we're going to go ahead and read these reports of what Israel has been doing to the Palestinian people that they've taken to their concentration camps. Shortly after Israel Defense Forces launched ground operations in the Gaza Strip towards the end of October 2023, reports of Palestinians being detained in the northern Gaza began to emerge. UNRWA began recording the detention of men and women sheltering inside the agency facilities by the IDF starting 12th of November 2023. On the 16th of December, the UN Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights reported receiving, quote, numerous reports of mass detentions, ill treatment, and enforced disappearances of possibly thousands of Palestinian men and boys and a number of women and girls at the hands of the Israeli Defense Forces. In addition to northern Gaza, detentions have since been reported in the middle area of Gaza from December 2023 and in Khan Yunis from January 2024. Gazans have reportedly been detained while fleeing to the south, while in their homes during IDF operations, from their places of work, including hospitals, and while sheltering in UNRWA installations and other facilities. As of the 4th of April 2024, UNRWA has documented the release of 1,506 detainees, read that as hostages, from Gaza and by the Israeli authorities through the Karem Shalom crossing point with Israel. This includes 43 children, 39 boys, 4 girls, and 84 women. Norman Finkelstein brought up the fact that this is basically a war on children. 50% of all Gazans are children. And so all of the pretenses of Israel trying to fight Hamas or fight a terrorist threat or whatever, it's all just smoke and mirrors. It's a smokescreen to carry out a genocide. Let's see, detainees described. I'm not going to read every single bit of it. I'm going to try to get to the real important bits here. I saw people in detention. Okay, so this is going to be, I believe this is, getting to the reports. Detainees reported ill treatment during the different stages of their detention. Released detainees included men, women, and children, older persons, persons with disabilities, and the injured and sick, all of whom were subjected to similar forms of ill treatment, according to the first-hand testimonies received by UNRWA. Agency staff at Harem Abu Salem witnessed signs of trauma and ill treatment among the released detainees. In almost all instances, Palestinian Red Crescent ambulances transported some persons from the crossings to local hospitals due to injury or illness caused by what the Israeli Defense Force has done to these people. I saw people in detention, 70 years old, very old. There were people with Alzheimer's, old people who were blind, people with disabilities who couldn't walk, people who had shrapnel in their backs and couldn't stand up, people with epilepsy, and torture was for everyone, even for people who didn't know their own names. We told them that someone was blind, they didn't care. Adult male detainee aged 46 years. Detainees described having all items in their possession confiscated, including identification documents and money at the time of their detention and generally not returned after their release. They're just doing Nazi shit. They're just basically doing Nazi Germany Holocaust shit, And don't, come at me in the comments. Go ahead, come right for me in the comments telling me, because how can you deny that? How can you absolutely deny that in the face of reality, in the face of the facts? This included being subjected to beatings while being made to lie on a thin mattress on top of rubber for hours without food, water, or access to a toilet, with their legs and hands bound with plastic ties. Several detainees reported being forced into cages and attacked by dogs. Some released detainees, including a child, had dog bite wounds on their body. Detainees were threatened with prolonged detention, injury, or the killing of family members if they did not provide requested information. It's torture. They're literally just, hell torturing them. Torture from hell. Shabak showed me my whole neighborhood on a computer screen and asked me to tell them about all of the persons they pointed to. Who is this, etc. If I didn't recognize someone, the soldiers threatened to bomb my home. She asked me who in my home did not evacuate to the south. I told her my brothers and my father stayed at home. She said if I don't confess with all information, we will bomb your home and kill your family. Adult female detainee, 34 years. That is depraved. That is so fucking evil. That's like zero humanity. Like, you have negative humanity doing shit like that. That's just absolutely super fucking upsetting. Detainees also described being made to sit on their knees for 12 to 16 hours a day while in the barracks, blindfolded with their hands tied. Sleep was permitted between midnight and 4 to 5 a.m., with the lights constantly on and fans blowing cold air despite the cold weather. Several detainees reported having wet blankets thrown on them. Other methods of ill treatment reported by detainees included physical beatings, threats of physical harm, insults, and humiliation, such as being made to act like animals or getting urinated on, use of loud music and noise, deprivation of water, food, sleep, and toilets, denial of the right to pray, and prolonged use of tightly locked handcuffs, causing open wounds and friction injuries. The beatings included blunt force trauma to the head, shoulders, kidneys, neck, back, and legs with metal bars and butts of guns and boots, in some cases resulting in broken ribs, separated shoulders, and lasting injuries. This guy's age 26, younger than me. They were beating me with an extendable metal bar. There was blood on my trousers, and when they saw it, they beat me there. They used a nail gun on my knee. These nails were kept in my knee for about 24 hours until I was transported to Naqab prison. That's just absolutely horrifying. That is so horrible and disgusting. Like the most moral army in the world? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you joking? They're Nazis. They're stormtroopers. They're doing Nazi shit. This is when we get if all of that wasn't awful enough, this is when we really start getting to the really awful sort of stuff. Reports of sexual violence and harassment. In most reported detention incidents, the IDF forced males, including children, to strip down to their underwear. UNRWA also documented at least one occasion where males sheltered in an UNRWA installation were forced to strip naked and were detained while naked. Both men and women reported threats and incidents that may amount to sexual violence and harassment by the IDF while in detention. I don't like the language that they use there, where it may amount. What's there to how is that contentious? Male victims reported beatings to their genitals, while one detainee reported being made to sit on an electrical probe up his ass. Let me tell you, up his ass. That's where it went. That may amount. To me, that's just kind of softening the language. And that, to me, that's just a very subtle, even though they're giving really good reports here of what's going on, and it's telling you the exact words of these people. They're still a liberal bourgeois organization that has to kind of just give them just the slightest bit of plausible deniability, somehow. They made me sit on something like a hot. This was the quote. I was reading this before. This is the quote that made me stop and just I had to turn off my phone and just stare into the sun for 0.5 seconds and then bury my head in a pillow. They made me sit on something like a hot metal stick and it felt like fire. I have burns in the anus. The soldiers hit me with their shoes on my chest and used something like a metal stick that had a small nail on the side. They asked us to drink from the toilet and made the dogs attack us. There were people who were detained and killed, maybe 9 of them. One of them died after they put an electrical stick up his anus. He got so sick, we saw worms coming out of his body, and then he died. Adult male detainee aged 41 years old. Women described being exposed to psychological abuse, including insults and threats, as well as inappropriate touching during searches and as a form of intimidation and harassment while blindfolded. Both men and women reported being made to strip naked in front of male soldiers during searches and being photographed or filmed while naked. They asked the soldiers to spit on me, saying, "She is a bitch. She is from Gaza." They were beating us as we moved and saying they would put pepper on our sensitive parts, genitals. They pulled us, beat us. They took us in the bus to the Daman prison after 5 days. A male soldier took off our hijabs, and they pinched us and touched our bodies, including our breasts. We were blindfolded, and we were feeling them touching us, pushing our heads to the bus. We started to squeeze together to try to protect ourselves from the touching. They said, "Bitch, bitch." They told the soldiers to take off their shoes and slap our faces with them. Adult female detainee, 34 years. That is just absolutely horrifying. Anybody who supports this, you are on the wrong side. If you support Israel, if you support the IDF, if you were in the IDF and you're now somebody who lives somewhere else in the world and you say, "Oh yeah, I used to be in the IDF." Sorry, I can't say that. Go fuck yourself. Detention of UNRWA staff and reports of forced confessions. And so this is when they were starting to actually get UNRWA staff members reported being interrogated about the work performed by the UNRWA and the specific functions they perform on behalf. So they're basically like, "Hey, what you guys are here reporting on us? All right, well, we're gonna beat the fuck out of you. We're gonna beat the shit out of you if you don't lie about what we're doing." They also reported being subjected to threats and coercion while in detention and being pressured during interrogations to make forced confessions against the agency, including that the agency has affiliations with Hamas and that the UNRWA staff took part in the 7 October attacks against Israel. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. The ill treatment and abuse against UNRWA staff members was relayed by staff members themselves, included severe physical beatings and treatment akin to waterboarding, resulting in extreme physical suffering, beatings by doctors when referred for medical assistance, exposure to and being attacked by dogs, threats of rape and electrocution, threats of violence with guns pointed at them, verbal and psychological abuse, threats of murder and injury or harm to family members, humiliating and degrading treatment, being forced to strip naked and being photographed while they were undressed, and being forced to hold stressed positions. I mean, to me, this just really reminds me of what the what Julian Assange was able to reveal what U.S. soldiers and Marines were doing to people in prisoners in Iraq and Iran. Sorry, not Iran. Iraq and Afghanistan. UNRWA has made official protests to the Israeli authorities about the reported treatment of agency staff members while they were in Israeli detention centers. UNRWA has not received any response to those protests to date. So, I think that's a lot. That's a lot right there for that one. There was a leaked video. I'm sure that most of you have seen it, or if you haven't seen it, then you've at least heard of it. The leaked video showing Israeli soldiers sexually assaulting a Palestinian detainee from Gaza in the notorious Israeli detention camp Sde Taiman has come to the fore. I'm not going to play the video here, but you can see exactly where I'm at. I'm on, what is this website? I think this is a Turkish news source. And see, that's, again, up here, look at that breaking. U.S. stands firmly for preservation of historic status quo of Jerusalem, State Department says. Adding any unilateral action would be unacceptable. You know, the U.S. basically says Israel can do whatever they want. Israel can rape their prisoners. They can genocide an entire group of people, an entire ethnic group of people, and we will still support them. The United States is still going to support them. Kamala Harris is going to support these people. If you're on the fence about voting for either Trump or Kamala Harris, I mean, really, there is no difference at this point. You know, the liberal bourgeois two-party system that we have is really just a one-party system with two colors. You know, you choose your pick, whichever color you want, red or blue. But they both ultimately support the ruling class. They support the oligarchs. They support the rich, the ultra rich. Any differences that they may have are entirely superficial on the surface. You know, one of them may say, "Oh yeah, we'll make sure that you can get abortions at least maybe a week or two later than what it was before." Because I'm pretty sure in Florida now, with Ron DeSantis, the governor, he said that I think there's a new law now that it's 5 weeks, a 5-week abortion ban. Florida, 5-week abortion ban. Yeah. It takes effect. There we go. That was back in January, February, March, April, May. That was back in May. Tampa, Florida. Starting today, people can no longer access legal abortions in Florida beyond 6 weeks of pregnancy, except in rare circumstances. The restriction replaces a 15-week ban that's been in effect since July 2022, shortly after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. That's a tangent for another video, but really, to me, that's just kind of telling of where the United States ruling class has their priorities. You know, the controlling of abortion, they need to make sure that they can keep people poor. They need to keep the poor poor. They need to not give them any access to any sort of contraception. You know, it's going to end up turning into the fucking Handmaid's Tale. You know, the United States is not doing well right now in terms of its own domestic treatment of its people and its working class. You know, like I've been getting into arguments with people on Threads where they are saying, like, you know, you basically have to vote blue no matter who. You know, vote blue no matter who. People are bullies that try to bully anybody into not having any principles or being a principled voter at all. You know, if you're going to be a one issue voter or like a red line voter, like your one red line, your one issue, your wedge issue should be genocide. It should be the fact that the U.S. government is going to keep sending bombs and weapons to Israel, no matter who's in power. No matter who's in power. This is a pretty good graphic. Israel's Guantanamo. That's very very good, very telling, or very appropriate rather. Thousands of Palestinians arrested by Israeli forces in Gaza since this October 7th are being held in a military installation located at the southern Negev desert, with 36 detainees having reportedly died since then. It's obviously way more than that. That's such an underreporting. History of abuses. From 1949 to 1950, established as part of efforts to bring 49,000 Jews from Yemen. 2008 to 2014, hundreds of Palestinians are sent to state time in Israel's 2008 and 2014 wars on Gaza. They've just been systematically killing and destroying an entire group of people for over 80 years now. Almost 80 years. Over 80 years, honestly, because the Zionist movement started as it started in the fucking 1800s. You know, started in the 19th century as more of like a Christian European colonization sort of thing. And it's still European colonization. It's just been, you know, there's been a lot of time between then and now to kind of obscure the truth and put up more smokescreens and justifications post hoc and things like that. 10 soldiers at the prison are detained in a probe on the gang rape. 10 soldiers at the prison are detained in a probe on the gang rape of the detainee from Gaza. Yes, and so the fact that Israel actually detained some of the soldiers that were guilty of these rape charges, Israeli society just like blew up. Like there were right-wing riots going crazy trying to get those Israeli soldiers out of there because apparently they did nothing wrong. Apparently raping Palestinians is a thing that should be sanctioned in law. You know? I'm not saying that. That's what they're saying. It's absolutely insane.